celebrating the hard work and determination of our area athletes. This is The Score on WQAD News 8.
Good evening and welcome to The Score Sunday. It's been a busy week of college football. The Iowa State Cyclones making history, heading to the Big 12 championship for just the second time in program history. There's also been a lot in the high school basketball world, Western Big Six play opening up, and of course, more high school athletes signing to play sports in college. Coming up tonight, we'll hear from some of those athletes who are taking the next step in their respective sports in college, including one standout football player from Princeton and another star football player from Davenport North. Our FCA Story of the Week will focus around Dan Pearson himself and other FCA board members as they answer frequently asked questions. And we'll highlight a former Bettendorf Bulldog who's making a big impact on the Iowa State football team. We'll hear from the game changer Darian Porter and his head coach Matt Campbell after Iowa State's historic 10-win season. But first, we start with an exclusive interview with Illinois women's basketball coach and Clinton native Shauna Green. The Illini are ranked 21st in the AP Top 25. Sports director Kory Kuffler caught up with the Illini coach this week to talk all things Illinois basketball, from their great season so far to the state of the women's game and much, much more.
We are now joined by the third-year head coach of the Illinois women's basketball team, Shauna Green. Off to a great start this year, Coach. Just kind of talking about the start to the season and where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, you know, we had our first game of the season was against Florida State when they were ranked. So that was a big game for us at home, and won that game, and that kind of propelled us into the rankings. And you know, lost a close one. It was close until it wasn't close. It was really a couple possession game until they went on a little spurt to Kentucky, who obviously is a really, really good team, top 15 team in the country. And now we have another great test as we start Big Ten play on Sunday, going to Ohio State, who is 12th in the country. So, you know, I really like where we're at. We've learned a lot, even, you know, the wins, the loss we have had, you know, we just continue to learn and find ways for us to get better as we prepare for the main season, which is Big Ten Conference. And obviously the Big Ten this year is just incredibly deep. And I say you can play well when you get to conference and still lose. So just trying to continue to find our way and continue to get better daily.
Yeah, you mentioned the Big Ten, and you look at that conference this year, and for some reason, there's 8 teams ranked right now in the Big Ten. You guys are ranked. How do you look at the Big Ten this year, big picture-wise, be like, wow, we were good last year, and then you add these teams in like a UCLA and USC and all these teams, it's like you're even better this year as a conference, don't you think?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's something, I mean, I've always thought this league was one of the best leagues in the country. And I think now we've proven, as of right now, we're the deepest conference in the country for women's basketball. We have 9 teams ranked right now, and some other ones that are knocking on the door. So, I mean, more than half of the league is in the top 25. So you're going to be playing pretty much a ranked team almost every night in league. And then the teams that aren't ranked are really, everyone's getting better. The bottoms continuing to get better. Just the depth and the parity in this league, I just think is second to none. And now, yeah, you throw in the 4 new teams with USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington. Obviously, 2 of them are, you know, have been in the top 10, top 5 in the country. Oregon's been ranked. Washington's had some really good wins. I mean, it is just an absolute gauntlet. So every single night you have got to be ready to play well and to play tough, because it's going to be a battle.
Well, you guys are ranked 21st right now in the country. What does that mean to you at this point? And obviously you want to get better and see how high you can get, but what does that mean to you guys at this point to be ranked 21st in the country?
You know, I think it is important. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, rankings don't matter, this or that. Well, for us, I really think it's important to our program. Like, you want to be viewed as a top 25 team in the country, and especially where we've come from and where this program was at when we took over. For us to now have been ranked in our first, 3 years here and now spent some consistent time at it. But at the end of the day, Kory, we want to be ranked at the end of the year. That's the most important thing. But it also is great for our program in terms of just national recognition for recruiting.
And last year you win the WBIT. It's the first championship that the Illinois women have ever won in postseason. And you get a lot of those ladies back from last year, and they're probably like, that was great, but we want to get back to the NCAA tournament. We want to get to where we want to be nationally with the NCAA. What did the WBIT win mean? And then how did that transfer into this year?
It meant a lot, when anytime you can win a championship, anytime you can cut down nets, it means something. And especially in a program where, again, you're building, right? You're trying to get the players and the culture to where winning is the expectation, winning at a high level, winning championships, competing for championships. So that was really important in our process and in our growth. So, and also kind of the ups and downs we had last season, to be able to learn from some of those failures and some of that adversity, and to be able to put it together down that stretch and win 5 games in a row in a tournament setting. It's different. It's different when you win, when it's you either win or you go home. And for us to be able to put that stretch together, playing really high level basketball, it just really was part of a growth for us and part of the process for us. And I'm really proud of our guys for learning and then applying. And now I think that a lot of those lessons from last year, we've been able to take this year, and even in some of our games so far have really been able to apply some of those lessons.
So now that you've been at Illinois for 3 years, or 2.5, I guess, kind of established the program a little bit. And this past season, or I guess going into 2025, you got a recruiting class that's currently ranked 7th in the country, headlined by, I believe it's Destiny Jackson. Is that right? From Whitney
Yes.
Young, a five-star guard. What's the recruiting process like, and what's your pitch to those ladies now that you are having success in Illinois, is kind of turning this program around?
Yeah, I mean, winning a little bit helps, obviously, and I'm forever grateful for that first group when we came here, and we took, we kind of just made a team out of. We had 5 returners from the previous team, and then we just brought in a lot of new people from the transfer portal, and those are the people, that core group that's now seniors. They're the ones that really believed in us before we ever won. Even our first recruiting class, like, we hadn't really won. And they believed our vision, they believed in our track record, they believed in our relationships and the culture that we were establishing here. So they're always that core group, I think, will always have a special place in my heart, because before anything happened, they believed in it.
Where do you think the state of women's basketball is right now? Obviously, last year it hit a peak when you've got a Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, Juju, you've got Kiki. There's so many names out there now, and they're probably more household names than some of the men are. Where do you
Yeah.
feel like the state of women's basketball is?
I think it's at probably the highest level it's ever been in my lifetime. So it's at a high level of interest, of, just talent level. You're seeing sellouts everywhere. We never saw that before. It just, like, the amount of attention it's getting on a national level. You look at the Final Fours and the viewership, the attendance on that, the sellouts, the highest viewership, we've had ever. We had more viewers, I think, for the Final Four than the men's Final Four had. It's just, and now you look, it's carrying over in the WNBA as well. The sellouts they're having, and it's at an all-time high.
Let me ask you a little bit about your hometown of Clinton. Obviously, growing up there, playing in the MAC. What was the MAC like when you played?
It's funny because a lot of the really good schools back then, now they're not having, you can kind of see some of the, like, some are good, some aren't as good. But it was a great conference. When I was playing, it was super competitive. We had a lot of really good players on the basketball side, and I also played volleyball. It was just a high level conference and a high level of talent and competition. We were fortunate. We had some good years. I think still our team at Clinton was the only team so far that's ever made state tournament in Clinton girls basketball history. So I just have a ton of respect for the league, and it's been fun even, last year going back and seeing some MAC games when we were recruiting Divine, and being, just in the league and seeing some of the old stomping grounds. So just a ton of respect for it, and we'll continue to recruit it as hard as we can if there's players that fit what we're doing and are would be able to help us here.
Sure. How important is that, the Quad City area, to what you want to have down at Illinois and the success there? Because obviously the local girls here mean viewers for you.
Yes. No, I think and again, that's why we've recruited it. Since we got here, if there's a kid that we again think has the ability to help us, we're going to recruit them at a high level. We spent a lot of time down there in the last couple of years recruiting, obviously recruiting Divine, and we'll just continue to recruit that area because it's close enough. Like, yeah, I know Iowa, if you're an Iowa kid in the Quad Cities, like that's probably your dream to go to Iowa, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes that's not the right fit. And then obviously if you're in the Illinois side of it, that's our home state. So we'll continue to recruit all over that we need. Got to try to keep our home state and the top players in Illinois. But yeah, I'm still searching to get that first Iowa kid to play for me, because obviously being from there, and I've never had an Iowa kid. So now that we're close enough, we're going to recruit it hard.
Well, Shauna, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule. Good luck as you enter the Big Ten season. Have a great year, and hopefully we find you in the NCAA tournament this year.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
If you want to hear more from Coach Green, you can find an extended interview right now on our 8+ app. Coming up on The Score, signing day. Local standout athletes signed to further their athletic careers in college. Hear from them next on The Score Sunday.
The Score continues on WQID News 8.
From those leaving to those making their commitments official, it's National Signing Day for football players, and a couple big-name players are making their choice official. Let's start in Princeton, where senior Noah Laporte will officially be a Wildcat next season. Laporte verbally committed to Northwestern before the season started and is excited for what his future holds.
I'm so grateful for all the coaches, all my parents, all my friends. They all guided me towards the direction I'm at now, and then obviously they all love to see this success and everything, but they want to see me play at the next level as well too. So they're all not going to stop pushing me to get better, get stronger, get faster, and obviously get the work done in the classroom.
Noah led the Tigers with 405 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns this season. On the Iowa side, one of the top quarterbacks in the state will be taking his talents to Northern Iowa. Kaz Barczyk led the Davenport North to a 5-4 record, throwing for more than 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, and rushed for 7 more. But it was his work over the summer that really caught the eye of the Panthers, and despite Coach Farley leaving, he always wanted to be a Panther.
That was stressful and, had me thinking, but I always wanted to be a Panther, always wanted to be, go to UNI, so my heart was on UNI and, nowhere else. So, it was really, not much of a problem for me. When I get on campus, even if I'm not starting right away, and then obviously too, I'm going to try to win the job, and, I'm kind of a dual threat type of guy, so I can do a little bit of everything.
Congrats to all that signed to play at the next level. It's halftime. FCA is next on The Score. Dan Pearson answers your most asked questions about Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Hear from him and his board members next on The Score Sunday. We see them week after week. The FCA Story of the Week has been part of the rhythm of News 8 for more than 12 years now, as Dan Pearson celebrates local coaches and athletes. This week, Dan offers answers to some frequently asked questions.
I get lots of questions about Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Who, what, when, where, why, how? Hey, just like journalism. Well, after leaving TV about 13 years ago, I guess the FCA Story of the Week is a great time for some answers. I worked in TV for almost 30 years, and in that time, my wife and I learned that sharing our lives and generosity was a key to happiness at home, work, community, and church. My last 11 years in TV, Gina and I teamed up with some amazing people to lead the Geneseo, Illinois Huddle. Happy times. I remember that our entire yearly budget was about $1,500. Then the switch to full-time FCA in 2011.
I think this is probably the best club in the school.
This is a life-changing camp.
I just remember when I was in elementary school, I used to get made fun of for being a Christian, but now there's just the people who used to do the making fun of me, they're here with us.
You can't force the Bible on them, but you can show them the Christian way.
What a journey. My job is now to serve the Northwest Illinois FCA multi-area, including the Three Rivers, Greater Peoria, and Northern Illinois areas. That's 23 counties with 1.4 million residents. The budget this year, $1.272 million. The key is the same, sharing not only God's good gospel, but our very lives, loving others. God has created an amazing team of staff, boards, donors, and of course the coaches and athletes and their communities.
I see young people so engaged and so open about their faith.
Sports is such a big thing, and to be able to merge that with sharing the gospel on that platform is just a huge opportunity.
I think Fellowship of Christian Athletes just shows that, sports are great, but ultimately how can we glorify God through what we do with sports.
Now all of this is just tip of the iceberg stuff of eternal importance. Our team would be grateful if you'd consider joining the team with financial support or maybe considering becoming a volunteer. With that, this is Dan Pearson with the FCA Story of the Week.
Coming up on The Score, a big impact for a big season. How a Bettendorf grad helped the Iowa State football team take it to the next level. That's next on The Score Sunday. Iowa State's hunt for a conference title has come to an end with a loss in the Big 12 championship to Arizona State. But it was a historic season for the Cyclones, and one Bettendorf grad has been a big part of it. WOI's Reina Garcia and Jake Bren from our sister station in Des Moines takes us through the story.
Darian Porter has been a Cyclone for 6 years, and he's blocked 5 kicks, by far the most of anybody on this roster. His story is one of passion and persistence. His latest block helped punch ISU's ticket to Arlington. Porter takes pride in his role on special teams.
Having the speed that I do is very helpful, the speed and the length, but when it comes to special teams, it's all about, your investment in your heart. It's not the sexiest job, it's not what everyone wants to do, but if you embrace it, they're game-changing plays every single time special teams comes onto the field.
That passion has kept him in Ames when he easily could have left. As a senior at Bettendorf, Porter shattered the 400-meter state record. Porter of Bettendorf. Expected by most to come in and be an impact wide receiver, Porter only had 1 catch in his first 3 seasons. But instead of transferring, Porter moved to defense and has carved out a role on special teams, joining a list of guys that were patient in the program.
They just waited their turn, and they kept growing and developing, and wherever they could help the team during their growth process, they maximized their role and perfected their role.
Now Porter is elite in more areas than one.
Not only is he playing great on special teams, obviously what he's done at corner, but not only is he playing good at corner, you could say he's one of the best corners in college football, and what he's been able to do has been really awesome to watch.
Campbell adds it's stories like Porter's that make the Cyclone football program what it is.
It was a very unique experience, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for my coaches and my teammates for never giving up on me and encouraging me throughout everything.
It's time to announce this week's Midwest Technical Institute Score Standout nominees. We'll start with Jayliana Guy from Bettendorf. The freshman standout scored 23 points in the Bulldogs' win over North Scott. Here are the rest of the Midwest Technical Institute Score Standouts. Jordan Reinhardt from Princeton. He had 26 points, including the game-tying and game-winning three-pointer. Lejaya Angel from Wethersfield. She had a career-high 30 points this week as the Wethersfield girls basketball team beat Anawan. And Rylan Carton from Sherrard, he had 18 points in the Tigers' first win over Rock Ridge since 2018. You can vote for this week's Score Standout nominees by visiting WQAD.com. The poll will be on the sports page and the score page. You have until Wednesday at noon to cast your vote, with each week's winner being featured on Off the Cuff.
Time to go off the cuff with this week's Midwest Technical Institute Score Standout winner. It's Aubrey Kroyman, a junior here at Makokata High School. And Aubrey, what's it mean to you to be a Score Standout winner?
I mean, I feel honored. I'm very grateful for all my friends and family in my community who decided to vote for me, and yeah, it just feels great.
So in order to get this, you've had a double-double last week, 15 points, 16 rebounds. When you're not playing basketball, what's one of the hobbies that you like to do?
Probably cooking.
Okay.
Cooking.
Cooking, and what do you like to cook?
Cheesecake.
She's like plain cheesecake or?
Strawberry cherry.
Strawberry cherry.
Yeah.
That's, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to find your cheesecake and get some cheesecake. I love cheesecake. So, okay, so when you're getting ready for basketball, you're probably listening to music.
Yeah.
What are you listening to on your headphones?
My top would probably be Frank Ocean.
Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, Ivy.
Ivy. And why do you like that song?
I don't know. It just gets me focused. I feel like.
Get you pumped up,
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
play? Okay. After you play basketball, you're probably hungry.
Yeah.
Places that you like to go eat?
Poncheros is definitely my top one.
Okay.
For
and,
sure.
and what do you get at Poncheros?
A burrito, steak burrito.
Steak burrito. Just steak and cheese, or what's
steak,
on it?
sour cream, guacamole, vegetables, everything, rice.
Perfect. Okay. We're in the holiday season. Christmas is upon us. So do you have a favorite holiday?
Christmas is my favorite.
Favorite Christmas. Okay. So do you have a favorite gift that you've received over the years?
When I was younger, probably a puppy.
What's one thing that you like to do at Christmas time? Do you open gifts on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day?
We have this thing where we open one on Christmas Eve that night, and then we finish up Christmas morning with all of our presents. Yep.
Aubrey, thanks for going off the cuff.
Thank you.
That is our show for tonight. We'd like to thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next week for The Score Sunday.